Welcome back to On the Same Page. We are on Daf Yud Daled Amud Aleph, 14a of Maseches Megillah, and we are starting 3 lines from the bottom of the page, towards the end of the line where it says Avigail. The Gemara has been discussing the Shiva Nevios, the 7 prophetesses, and bringing sources for how we know that each of them was indeed a prophetess. And now we come to Avigail. Abigail was someone who eventually became the wife of David HaMelech, of King David, but originally was the wife of Naval HaKarmeli. And when David HaMelech was kind of on the run from Shaul, although he had already been told that he was to be king, he encountered Naval and asked for food for him and his men, and Naval refused, and the following ensued, that actually Abigail came after David. Abigail, the wife of Naval, came after David, and I think she wanted to bring him food, if I recall correctly. So the Gemara says as follows: Abigail dichsiv. How do we know Abigail was a prophetess? As it says, V'haya hi rocheves al hachamor, v'yoredes b'seiser hahar. So she was riding on the donkey, and she was coming down the seiser hahar, literally like the hidden part of the mountain. Now the Gemara asks, b'seiser hahar, in the hidden part of the mountain, minahar mi bayilei. It should have just said she came down the mountain. Why does it have to say the word b'seiser in the hidden part? It must be that there's something deeper that's being hinted to here, that's being alluded to. So Amar Rabba bar Shmuel, so Rabba bar Shmuel said, al iske dam haba min astarim, that it uses the word seiser because the reason why she was coming was with regards to dam, blood, haba min astarim, which comes from the hidden parts, the inner parts of one's body, and she was coming with a question in Hilchos Nida, in the laws of Nida, and she wanted to show the dam, to show the blood to David to determine if she was indeed a Nida or not. By Torah law, there are 5 shades of dam, that blood that would render, that if it's uterine blood, it would render a woman a nida. Nowadays, we don't know how to identify those shades, so any dam, any blood that comes from the uterus would be that's red would make her a nida. But so she was coming with this dam. Natla dam herasalo. So she took it and she showed it to him. Amarla, he said to her. So David said, "V'chimarin dam balayla." Is it permitted to check maras, to check the blood at night? You can't see the color properly. You're not allowed to check it at night. How do we know it was night? So Rashi quotes a pasuk, because David said, if I allow Naval to remain alive until the morning, implying that it was nighttime. So Amralo, she said back to him, are you allowed to rule on capital cases at night? You are trying to rule that Naval, my husband, should be killed, but it's nighttime, and you're not allowed to paskin, to rule on capital cases at nighttime. Rashi quotes a couple of sources for that. A pasuk in Yirmiyah, Dino lavoker mishpat, that the judgment should come in the morning. And a pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze, it says, "V'okao sam la'Hashem neged hashemesh." They should be hung opposite the sun, but that means they were ruled on during the daytime. So dinei nefashos, capital cases have to be ruled on during the daytime. So she went. It could be she was setting him up for this. She said, "How could you rule against my husband if it is the nighttime?" So Amar La, so he said back to her, top of the next page, "Mored b'malchuso," that no, this is different. Naval is a Mored b'malchus. He's rebelling against the king, meaning me. I'm the king. I've been anointed king, and he rebelled against me. He refused to help us. And he doesn't need a regular judicial case. If it's a proper case, then it needs to be judged in the daytime. But a case of Mored b'malchus, rebelling against the king just rules on it, and it doesn't need the general laws of nefashos, of capital cases. So Amrlo, she said back to him, Adayin Sha'ol Kayam. Sha'ol is still alive. V'lo yatsa tivacha ba'olam. And your nature, your name hasn't gone out. Your coin, maybe you're not known, a known commodity in the world, and therefore he can't be found guilty of murder malchus because either you don't have the full status of king, or he didn't know you were king, so he's not. He can't be found guilty. So Amar La. So then David said, and this is back to quoting the pasuk, Uvaruch taimech uvrucha at asher kirisani yom hazeh mibo b'damim. He said, blessed is your reasoning, and you should be blessed that you stopped me today from coming into blood. Literally, simply understood, it means from killing him, from having him killed, that you stopped me. I think that's the simple reading of that pasuk. You have to see in context, I guess, to for sure. Or maybe he was thanking her for that he didn't come into blood. He wasn't hurt, but I think it means from shedding blood. But the thing is, says the Gemara, damim tarti mashma. Damim is plural, bloods. So it implies there were two bloods, two possible ways that he could have stumbled with regard to blood, and he was blessing her for stopping him from both. Ella milamed, so this teaches Ella milamed shegilsa eshoka, that she had revealed her thigh, v'halach le'ora gimel parsos, and he, David, traveled by its light 3 parsas, a length of distance, because he desired her. Amar he said to her, Hishami li, listen to me, meaning allow me to be intimate with you. Amar lo, she said to him, Lo siya zos lecha lefuka. This should not be a stumbling block. So she stopped him from having relations, and that means, it's interesting, it focuses on the damim part, the blood part, that she was a nida, and that's why it would have been a problem. She was also married, which would be another reason it's a problem. But she said, no, don't let this be a stumbling block for you. Don't try to have relations with me. And and so she stopped him. So she stopped him from having relations with the nida. That's one dam, one blood, and she stopped him from killing Naval, and that's another blood. So damim, 2 bloods, two things that she stopped him from. And then, but she said, don't let this be a stumbling block for you, implying, says the Gemara, Zos, don't let this, Michlal, De'ikachriti, that she knew that there was going to be another time where he would stumble. Don't stumble this time. I know you're going to stumble a different time, but don't stumble this time. So it implies that she knew there was a time that he would stumble. And what is that? That's the story with Bathsheba, where David was involved. Again, that's a whole question of what exactly happened there, but he was involved with Bathsheba, who was married to Uriah, and he stumbled there. So this is the source that she was a prophetess, is that she said, don't stumble this time, implying that she knew he was going to stumble another time. Now, just to pause and consider this very kind of elaborate story, and shocking maybe. So it says that she revealed her thigh, and he went after its light for 3 parsas. So Tosfos is bothered by this. He says, how could this righteous woman reveal her thigh to David? Also, he says it seems an exaggeration that he went by the light of the thigh for 3 parsas. So Tosfos says a different thing. He says that it's not the light of the thigh, but rather l'ur shala, the fire, meaning the passion he desired. He followed her for 3 parsas from passion. Now, he doesn't really answer the first part of the question, it seems, about how she could reveal her thigh. The Maharsha, though, says that, why is Tosfos assuming that she revealed it to him? It could be that she revealed it somewhere else. She was changing or something. And the way the Maharsha says it is, you could say, and David saw it by accident, or the way the Maharsha says it is that it did give off a light. He says there's precedent for that. I don't know what that means exactly, but it did give off a light, and that's what he kind of pursued, and she was able to deter him from any forbidding activity. Okay, so that's how we know that Avigail was a prophetess. Now the Gemara continues to discuss her conversation with him. So the Gemara says that she said, "V'haisa umaskara hachi havai." I don't remember if I read that in the end he did have something happen with Bathsheba, and so that was the manifestation of her prophecy. Now, she said to him, "V'haisa nefesh adoni tzrura b'tzrura chaim." The soul of my master should be attached, should be bound with the bonds of life. She gave him that blessing, which is a blessing actually that we give for the soul of those who have passed, and she gave that to David. And then she said, that's from the pasuk. And then she also said to him, Kihabas miftara minei, when she was going to leave, Amrale, she said to him, V'heitiv Hashem ladoni, Hashem should do good for my master, V'zacharta samaseich, and you should remember your maidservant. Now, why does she want to be remembered by him? Here we have, she's a married woman. She's married to Naval HaKarmeli. Why does she need David to remember her? Okay, could simply understand she helped him and she wants to be remembered. Says the Gemara, right, and we know that David did eventually marry her, so after Naval died. So says the Gemara, Hein Amar Nachman Hein Damrianshi. This is an indication of the expression that people say, Itza bahade shusa pilcha. A woman, while she's talking, pilcha, she's also, I think using the spindle, she's like weaving or something while she's talking. So, meaning she's multitasking. She's preparing, in other words, she's preparing for the future here. And she's saying, remember me, because even though I'm married to him right now, things could change, and don't forget me. Ikada Amri, others say a different expression, that he said, this is a manifestation of the expression, Shvil, the Azal Barubza, Veinoi Mitaifi, that the goose, it walks, Shifil, walks with like its head down, it walks humbly, but its eyes are up, its eyes are looking ahead, and so even though she was perhaps acting a humble way, but she also had her eyes set in the future, and so she said to David, remember me. Okay, that's Abigail. What about Huldah? So Huldah was also one of the Sheva Nevios, one of the 7 prophetesses, and that also is explicit. Huldah Dichsiv, the pasuk says in Melachim Beis, chapter 22, it says, Vayelchel Kiyahu HaKohen, V'achikam, V'achbar, V'shafan. The Gemara doesn't quote the rest here, in our versions at least, but it keeps going and says, they went El Huldah HaNeviah, to Huldah the prophetess. So the pasuk says, the verse says explicitly that she was a prophetess. Now what were they doing there? So this is when Yoshio HaMelech, when they found the Sefer Torah, and there were no Sefer Torah around, they found a Sefer Torah in the Beis HaMikdash, and it had all these warnings against what would happen to them if they continued to sin, and they went to ask Huldah for her advice, basically, of what they should do. So that's the context over here. Now, ask the Gemara, Uvemakum deka Yirmiyah hechi misnavi. If Yirmiyah Hanavi, Yirmiyah the prophet was there, how could she prophesy? I mean, why are they? Yirmiyah was this great, tremendous prophet. Should Huldah really be also prophesying? So Ami Bey Rav Mishmei Derav, So they said, in the name of Rav, Chuda Krovas Yirmiyah Haisa, Chuda was a relative of Yirmiyah, and he wasn't concerned, he trusted her, or he wasn't makbid, he wasn't concerned that, and he allowed her to also prophesy. Still, V'yoshia Gufei Heichi Shabak Yirmiyah Meshader Ligaba. But still, Yoshio HaMelech, Yoshio the king, why did he leave Yirmiyah and send his men to go to Chuda? He should have sent them to Yirmiyah. Yirmiyah is the leading prophet of the time. So the Gemara says, Amri Dvei Rabbi Shilo, they explained in the base measure of Rabbi Shilo, Menesha Nashim Rachmani Yosein, because women are merciful. And therefore, they wanted to go to her. Now, what does that mean? What kind of mercy were they looking for? The Maharsha says, a prophecy is a prophecy. If it was going to be a bad prophecy that they received, then what difference does it make who they go to? Maharsha says they wanted her to daven. They wanted someone who can pray for them, who would have great mercy and pray for them. So they went to her. Rabbi Yochanan says, you know why they went to Chuda? Because Yirmiyah lo hava hasam. Because Yirmiyah wasn't around. Where was he? Sheholach lahachzir aseres hashvatim. He went to bring back the 10 lost tribes. Uminal and dahadar. How do we know that he did? So apparently the Gemara says he brought back some, or many of the lost tribes. Dechsev, because the pasuk says, Ki hamocher el hamemkar lo yashuv. So this is a pasuk in Yechezkel, and Yechezkel, the prophet, it's around the same time as Yirmiyah, shortly before the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, and in those last few years, and Yechezkel is prophesying that in the future there won't be Yovel, and that which is purchased will not go back to its original owner, right? By Yovel, land purchased in Eretz Yisrael returns to its the original family, but Yechezkel is giving a prophecy that in the future it won't go back. Now, Efshar Yovel Batal V'Navi Misnabe Alav Sheivatal. Does it make sense? Is it possible that Yovel is already not in practice, already nullified, and he's prophesying that in the future it won't be? That you don't need a Navi for that. It's already out. It's already not happening. So so this teaches me Yirmiyah Hachziron, Yirmiyah must have brought back the tribes. What does that have to do with Yovel? So the halacha is that when it comes to Yovel, we only practice Yovel. Yovel is only practiced, is only the halachas of Yovel only apply if all 12 tribes are living in Eretz Yisrael. So it seems that Yovel was currently being practiced in these last years of the Beis HaMikdash. And otherwise, why is Yechezkel predicting that it won't be if it's already not practiced? So, must be it was practiced. Must be the tribes had come back. So we see that Yirmiyah must have gone to bring them back. And the Yoshio, and Yoshio ruled out over them, Dechsiv, because it says, Vayomer Elav Anshe Ha'ir HaKever. So this is in the days of Yoshio. There's a pasuk that describes how he came to Beisel, and he asked. Sorry, I skipped. Dechsiv Vayomer, and he said, "Ma hatzion ha'lo asher ani yirah." What is this grave marker or something? This tzion, this monument that I see. Vayomru elav anshe ha'ir, and the men of the city said, "Hakever isha Elokim asher ba miYehuda." This is the grave site of the man of God who came from Yehuda. Vayikras advarim ha'ila asher asisa al hamizbeach beveisel. And he read the things that you did on the mizbeach in Beisel. So again, putting aside all the details of what's going on there, but you have Yoshio HaMelech, Yoshio the king in Beisel. Now Beisel was the center of the kingdom of Yisrael. Yoshio was the king of Yehuda. So, what's he doing? What's he doing in Beisel? So the answer is he had gone there to destroy these bones that were there, but there was a Mizbeach there that Yeravam had built, and he had gone to destroy that. But what's he doing there? So the Gemara, why is Yoshio at this Mizbeach in Beisel? It's teaching Yoshio Malach Aleim. That Yoshio was the king over the people there, and that they had come back. So this is a further evidence that there were once again Jews living in the lands of Israel, and that Yirmiyah had brought them back. And that's why going back to Huldah, they went to Huldah, because at that time that they went to Huldah, it was when Yirmiyah was out trying to bring back the lost tribes. Yeah, okay. Rav Nachman Amar Mehachar. Rav Nachman says a different pasuk as a source that the tribes had come back, because it says Gam Yehuda Shas Katzir Lach Beshuvi Shvus Ami. So also Yehuda, there's a pasuk in Micha, I think, in Hosea. Sorry, it's a pasuk in Hosea. It says also Yehuda Shas Katzir Beshuvi Shvus Ami. Shas Katzir. Different ways to translate it. Rashi says it means like he became great, like for Katzir, like the word Katzin, which is a leader. People of Yehuda became leaders, but when Bishuvi Yeshusami, when I returned the captives of my nation, in other words, when I brought back the tribe. So this pasuk indicates as well that the tribes had come back. Okay, so that's Huldah. Esther, how do we know Esther was a prophetess? Tichsiv, as the pasuk says, Vayi bayom hashlishi, it was on the third day, Vatabash Esther Malchus, and Esther dressed in Malchus, in kingship. So this is when Esther is preparing to go to Achashverosh to ask, really, and to invite him to her own feast. But it says, Vatilbash Esther Malchus, she dressed kingship. So the Gemara asks, Big Day Malchus Vailai. It should have said she dressed in clothes of kingship, in royal clothes. So what is it alluding to? What it's telling you is, Lav Shamalchus means she dressed in Ruach HaKodesh. Maharsha mentions Malchus is like the sphera, that the last sphera, and Ruach HaKodesh comes from there. Okay, not my league, but she dressed she was enveloped, she was dressed in Ruach HaKodesh, in divine inspiration. And we have an indication, we have evidence that the word Vatilbash, that you get dressed up in a spirit of something. Ksiv Hacha Vatilbash, it says here, and she dressed. Ksiv Hasmang, it says elsewhere, V'ruach Lavsha Esa Masai, V'gomer. Talking about Amasai was from the times of David HaMelech, and it says there that a spirit enveloped him. It wasn't a spirit of Nevuah in that case, but a spirit enveloped him, a spirit of strength, I think, but you see that you can have a ruach, a spirit that one is lovish, that one wears. So therefore, when it says Vatilbash, that Esther wore, it can be interpreted that she wore Ruach HaKodesh, she wore this spirit of prophecy. Okay. So that's how we know that she was a prophetess. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, Lo ya'eh yehirusa l'nashi. Arrogance is not good for women. I mean, for anyone, but here it seems like too much power, he's saying, is not good for a woman. Too much authority. Where do we see this? Because Tarti Nashi Yehiran Havyan, Visanyan Shemayu. There are two women who we see that they acted arrogantly, and they have names that express, literally Sanya Shmai means their names are hated. Their names are things that are despised. Who are they? Chada Shma Ziborta v'Chada Shma Karkushta. One is the name bee, and one is the name weasel, or I saw Martin. Weasel. Who are they? Devora. Devora means a bee, and Chuda. Chuda means a weasel. So they had names that indicate that they were despised on some level. Ziborta Ksiba. By Devora it says, Vatishlach Vatikra leBarak. She sent and she summoned Barak. V'ului lo azal legabe. But she didn't go to him. So Barak was this great leader at the same time with her, and she summoned him to her instead of going to him. So that was an act of arrogance, and you see that someone who acts arrogantly has this lowly name called Devora, called B. Karkushta. What about the weasel? Ksiba. It says about Chuda, Imru la'ish. When these, like I mentioned before, that Yoshia Melech sent men to Chuda to ask her about how to respond to what they read in the Torah, so she said, tell the man. V'lo amra imru lamelech. She didn't say tell the king, she said tell the man, and that was insulting, arrogance, and again we have that such a person, what's associated with her is a lowly name. So this has to be balanced, because obviously if these women were leaders and prophetesses, they were great tzaddikim, so tzaddikises, they were very righteous, so it's I guess it's bringing out that they had a small, a minor fault, that and as a result of that they had a name that was sometimes disliked. Okay. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, Chuda mibnei vanav shel Yehoshua haisa. Chuda was a descendant of Yehoshua. Ksiv hacha, it says here, ben Charcham. So when it describes Chuda's, who she was, it says that Charchas. It says that she was Eshes Shalom ben Tikva ben Charchas. She was the wife of Shalom, the son of Tikva, and the son of Charchas. Now, so she was not descended from Charchas, but her husband was. Uksiv Hasamang, it says by Yoshua, Betimnas Charas. It says that he was buried in Timnas Chares. So we have that Yoshua was buried in Timnas Chares, and we have that she was the wife of someone named Ben Charchas, someone who was the son of Charchas. And the Gemara is connecting these two and saying from here you see that she descended from Yehoshua. It's a little difficult to make that connection. Rashi's bothered. It wasn't her husband. It wasn't her name. It was her husband. Even though it was talking about her husband, still says Rashi, the pasuk is a description of her, and so if it's using this name in describing her, it seems there was something important about this name to her, and that is in order to make this connection between that word and the description of the burial place of Yehoshua. We want to connect these two people to tell you that they were related, that she descended from Yehoshua. Esvei Ravina Saba Rav Nachman. So Ravina Saba asked on Rav Nachman from a brisa. The brisa says, Shmona Neviim ve'im Kohanim yatzu me'Rachav Azona. There were 8 prophets who were Kohanim who descended from Rachav Azona. Rachav Azona was the woman in the city of Yericho who helped the Jews when they came to Yericho, and the spies that went ahead. Pinchas and was it Yoshua himself who came, or Kalev? Maybe I think it was Pinchas and Kalev, if I remember correctly. Whoever the spies that came ahead in the beginning of Sefer Yoshua, so she helped them. So it says that she had 8 Nevi'im that came from her, and they were Kohanim. Ve'eluhain, and these are them: Neriah, Baruch, Visariah, Machasya, Yirmiyah, Chilkiah, and Chanamel, and Shalom. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Af Chulda HaNeviah Mimnei Baneh Shel Rachav Hazona Haisa. There also Chulda, the prophetess, was from her descendants. Ksiv Hacha. How do we know that Chulda came from Rachav? Because it says Ben Tikva that Chulda was the wife of Shalom, the son of Tikva. So same idea again. It's her husband's father, but again describing her. So it's going to have some connection to her. Uksiv Hasam, and it says with regards to Rachav as Tikva Chut Hashani, that she made this pact with them that she would hang this Tikva Chut Hashani, this string, this wool string, to indicate which house was hers, and the Jewish people shouldn't attack that house, etc. So where it says that word tikva again, so there's a connection between the word tikva and tikva. That tikva Chut Hashani and Ben Tikva connecting Chulda to Rachav to teach us that Chulda was a descendant of Rachav. So I asked Rav Eina Saba to Rav Nachman, you're telling me that Chulda was a descendant of Yoshua, but there's a brayso that says that she was a descendant of Rachav. So Amar Lei, so Rav Nachman said Eina Saba. He said Eina Saba. V'amri lo pasya uchmo, or he said you literally like a dirtied pot. Not as an insult, but as someone who has experience. That's how he addressed him. Mini uminach tisdayim shmaitza. From me and you together, we'll get to the truth. Di'igarya v'nasba Yoshua. What happened was Rachav converted and she married Yoshua. So Chulda was a descendant of both. She was a descendant of Yoshua and she was a descendant of Rachav because they got married. Asked the Gemara, Mihavu le'zar, but did Yoshua have any offspring? Yoshua? The pasuk says in Divrei Hayamim, when it's listing off the generation, it says known, Beno, that his son was known, Yoshua Beno, and his son was Yoshua. And then it stops, and it doesn't tell us any more sons of Yoshua. So it seems Yoshua didn't have any sons. Says the Gemara, Banai lo havule, bansar havule. Yeah, he didn't have sons, but he had daughters. So the Gemara is concluding that he married Rachav Hazona, and they had daughters, and from those daughters came Chulda. Seemingly also from those daughters came all the different prophets that I mentioned, and even Kohanim. So somewhere a convert can't marry a Kohen, but a convert's children could. So one of her daughters or descendants married a Kohen, and then had other Kohanim come from him. Among them were 8 Nevi'im, including Yirmiyah, and including a female, a woman prophetess, Chulda. And actually, we mentioned earlier that Chulda and Yirmiyah were related, so that fits in with this. They both descended from Yoshua and from Rachav, but again, seemingly through that they only had daughters together, and then at some point one of those daughters, granddaughters, would have married a Kohen and had Kohanim who were Nevi'im come from them. Okay, we will continue the top of the next page next time.